the people who've got no spiritual practice, who haven't even thought about God, but might be wanting to come in because their friend did it, and they're coming for the experience rather than because they really want to be with God. We kind of had our bubbles pierced of realizing that, so she can amplify even a person's ego. She's not a silver bullet.
The sacred plants were a regular part of our life as well. In every tradition, in every corner of the world. Everything. That really helped humanity connect with the divine. Why do you think people should dance with the plant medicines?
It really helps you to cultivate patience and the power of prayer and listening to each other and having reverence for simplicity. This medicine is serving the Christ, serving humanity's awakening, and is fast-tracking people's coming into right relationship. What the plant medicines, all of them do, is help us to become aware of the inner silence that's connected to the omnipresence, that is talking to us through silence. God talks to us through silence.
If this show is resonating with you, don't just feel it, support it. Follow the show, subscribe on YouTube, turn on the bell, drop a comment, or leave a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're tuning in. It takes just a few seconds, but it helps this message reach the people who need it. We feel your support and we're grateful for it. Now let's get back to the show.
Welcome to another episode of the Enlightened DXB podcast. I'm your host, Erica Welch, and it is my absolute pleasure today to be sitting down with Rita Hraiz, ageless wisdom keeper, and one of my favorite guests to have on the show. Rita, you have decades of experience with spiritual exploration. Guiding yourself, guiding others, guiding couples, but also that has led you to almost 2 decades of using plant medicines in your own spiritual awakening and journeys, and you have so much wisdom to share with us on that. So I'm really excited to have you on this podcast and to talk everything plant medicines and debunk a bunch of myths and talk about what's alive for you right now in that space.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to do this. It feels really important. Thank you.
I feel it is very, very important. More and more people are feeling called to the wisdom of the plants, which I think is really beautiful. But there's a lot also going on that I think people should be aware of, and you're very aware of what's going on. So let's dive in. First and foremost, I wanted to ask you about your first ever experience with plant medicine. What was it? How old were you? And why did you feel the call?
Well, thank you, because as you say that, I was going to talk about my first ayahuasca experience, but actually I'm just remembering my first experience would have been with mushrooms, and that would have been much younger, where I just wept and wept and wept and kept thinking, and it was kind of in a ceremony, but it wasn't, and I had eaten a pizza. So I wasn't fasted. And then, of course, with all the plant medicines, the biggest thing is you're going to purge what you're fearing often. And in this case, I was fearing that I'm pregnant. So I spent the whole night just absolutely petrified of being pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Because I already had children. And so that was that. But maybe I should start with my first ayahuasca ceremony. Because, Erica, when I was 18, I took half an acid tab, and it was so deep and so vast, it took me about 6 months to come back from that. And I'm grateful I wasn't sectioned. I was definitely on the edge of crazy, but I wasn't harmful to anybody.
Let's talk about that, actually.
I would like
because
to.
I have heard more recently, actually, not people directly in my friend circle, but maybe once removed, but I've been hearing more and more stories of people that have actually gone into psychosis.
Yeah.
And of course, that's one of the biggest fears of people who want to explore plant medicine. So tell me first about, what does that mean for those people who've never heard of that? What does it mean to go into psychosis after journeying with plant medicine? And why does it happen?
Okay, well, this was with acid, as I say, half an acid tab. But to me, and thankfully to God, because my deepest study is about Kundalini, how Shakti awakens us. And basically, I went into a Kundalini burnout. My Shakti, like my body wasn't prepared for the amount of Shakti that was released. And I hadn't got the purity and the harmlessness because I'd grown up with parents shouting and fighting. And I didn't have that at that time. I hadn't taken the vow of harmlessness and I hadn't started to really wake up. So then it was all messy.
For you, did it feel like you were not yet anchored yet? Like you were not grounded? So you kind of shot upwards?
I shot upwards and I was feeling all this chi, prana, but it was like burning. So a lot of people, when they have a Kundalini awakening, that could even be naturally, can go into it in a negative way, or not in a negative. Everything's positive, but it's very uncomfortable. And actually, I did a podcast just on this subject because it's such a big subject of what happens in a Kundalini awakening. But this was on the edge of psychosis. And I'm presuming you've heard of the Gene Keys by Rita Hraiz. My life's work, Gene Key, is transforming psychosis to sanctity. So it wasn't surprising I had this experience, but it was really, difficult. I thought everybody was telepathic. I thought, aeroplanes were talking to me. I was crazy for 6 months.
Wow.
And I actually really felt if I have a baby, I'll ground myself. Now, that was also crazy, really, but I won't go too much into that. So, of course, now, just a few days after my partner died from a road traffic accident, I would have been 39. And my daughter was our daughter was 5 months. And I got invited to talk to a talk about ayahuasca, where a guy wanted to express this master plant teacher and show us a slideshow to explain how she works and invite us to come to Peru to go into the jungle and work with her. So there I am in this community garden with a fire, and we're watching this slideshow on a projector. And the first thing that I saw, Erica, was, wow, what he did a great job to convey the way that she works. And what I got to understand was this medicine is serving the Christ, serving humanity's awakening, and is fast-tracking people's coming into right relationship, aligning their solar plex to their heart, getting off the emotional treadmill and being the victim, coming into forgiveness and compassion, and that the life force energy at the base of the spine that's tightly coiled in average humanity could be loosened if that person could hold the voltage of great Mother Shakti coming up to the crown of the head, taking us into an awakening. So I was like, this medicine's pure. This is good. And then the more I studied it and more I understood about it, was understanding it has this vast intelligence to understand where a person is in their spiritual development and how much of the voltage of their spirit and this divine union can they hold, as opposed to a synthetic like acid that hasn't got that level of intelligence. It's a generic thing. So I was curious. And then, I can't remember how long after, but it came to me and I was able to journey with Madre Ayahuasca, and I'm taking a deep breath into that. I often think of you when I say things like that because I love that you do. And it's just such a good thing to take a breath into because it was life transforming. And I had a lot of resistance. I had a fear, of course, of going into a psychosis, but I knew...
Especially after your past experience.
Exactly. But I had also had this massive Kundalini awakening, and I was used to holding voltage and be present with myself.
You know, I was quite afraid of any medicines, plant medicines, before I started on that journey, and it must be the control freak in me, of course. But I remember there was the first ceremony I did with ayahuasca. It was with the Hunikuin tribe.
Oh, nice.
And we were doing it in Portugal, and the tribe and the family had flown in, and it was beautiful musicians and everything. But beforehand, you know, they had a very responsible process of a psychotherapist who had to sit down with all of us to make sure over a Zoom call first, and then once we got there to do a double check-in.
Oh, that's so good.
It was fabulous. And it actually made me feel a lot more comfortable with the whole process.
I'm so happy to hear that, because so many people don't.
Yes.
And was that organised by somebody called Scott?
No, it was a woman in Portugal, but in a group. But I can put you in touch with them later. But what was really beautiful was I had expressed that I was quite fearful, and she said, "Erica, what are you fearful of?" And I said, "Well, I'm worried that I might go crazy, or, that this grandmother Aya will take over." And she said, "That's ridiculous." So she was so like, no BS, just very straight to the point. She's like, "That's ridiculous." She's like, "If you drink too much alcohol, are you incapacitated?" And I was like, "No, I can hold it quite well." She said, "Yes, you know why?" And I said, "No, why?" And she said, "Because you are an equal participant with whatever you've decided to consume in your body. And so if you're going to do Aya or anything else, you just simply must realize that you are an equal participant in this dance that you have decided to do with her for an evening. And if she decides to go one way that you don't like, you just tell her, 'I don't want to deal with that. Let's go another direction,' and she'll move." And it was just this reframe that I thought, could it really be that simple? That I get that control, that it's not control so much, but at least that sovereignty of a direction in which you can dance with plants. I wonder if that's how you felt as well.
No, it wasn't, but I totally hear that. But actually, so many people go to ceremonies wanting to lose control and to have what they call an ego death. So that's a whole other subject.
Yeah.
But I feel like I do respect what she said, but it can go any which way, and it really depends. And I think it is very important that people, first of all, look deeper at what it is they're fearing. Like, I feel when I see anybody going into ceremony, what I'm understanding is that the ego fears obliteration by the soul, because the ego is running the show. It's our construct of our world that our inner child has built. Generally, the wounded inner child builds a construct that it feels safe in and runs the show. And so it's a whole other thing to experience your soul. And the soul is a voltage of electric fire, different to spirit, which is cosmic fire, but some people even experience that. And imagine that is a lot of voltage to hold. So it's having deep levels of preparation is really important. But what I would love to say something about, because I've drunk ayahuasca with the Honey Queen, but also with many different tribes, different traditions, and even more in the urban shaman way, and in many countries as well. And what has blown me away about this one plant, and I'd like to talk about all of the different master plant teachers, and why, in fact, I'd quite like to talk about it from the perspective of why has this all suddenly happened?
Let's talk about
we suddenly in a psychedelic renaissance, and what is their purpose at this time of the turning point of humanity? There's something very specific unfolding.
Yeah.
So I feel I'd like to bring that in from the esoteric perspective.
Let's talk about this, because many, many centuries ago, the sacred plants were a regular part
Definitely.
of our life as well. In every tradition, in every corner of the world.
But that's hidden, isn't it? So they say even down to Moses with the burning bush, that was Syrian rue, which is very similar to ayahuasca because it will produce DMT. There's an amazing book, which I've been so happy to find, on Tantric Buddhism from the Vajrayana lineage, where it's definitely documented that there's all sorts of plant medicines.
And even sacred sacraments that they knew had hallucinogens and that sort of thing in it that really helped humanity connect with the divine.
That's so true.
And then somehow historically we went into a time where that went really, really underground, and it sort of feels like historically we started to look outward to, certain frameworks to help us connect to the divine versus sort of looking internally within, which seems to be how plant medicines work. They really help you connect
direct to the source of consciousness.
Source yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think these beautiful plants are, the wisdom that they're trying to connect to us now, and why now?
Why now? Let's start with why now, and then I must come back to ayahuasca and her gift, because it's mind-blowing. Well, it's to do with the ages. And I think I might have spoken about this on the first podcast I did with you, in Ageless Wisdom, we look at these 7 rays, 7 solar lords, 7 frequencies that correspond to our 7 chakras, but also to the different ages. Mm-hmm. So in the age of Pisces, the last 2,000-year cycle, we were in the age of idealism and devotion. And the highest attainment you could get was reverence and devotion. But the energy was corresponding to the solar plex. And basically, we were conditioned in that period to give our power away to the guru or the priest or the authority outside of ourselves. That's what we're just coming out of. And now in the age of Aquarius, it's the age of cosmic divine order and ceremonial white magic. And I just so love that. And this is guess what? It's the correspondent of the 7th ray coming into the sacral chakra, which will advance us as a race to become much more telepathic and in direct communion with the Creator. So, of course, we are everybody, from even the invention of television, brought people into a ceremony around the world watching things. But the desire to be in sacred ceremony where people of all nations and all walks of life come together to pray around the same altar. That is such a beautiful thing. And it's actually the prophecy of the condor and the eagle. When the condors protect the ayahuasca and the eagles protect the peyote medicines. And they say that when these two birds fly together, there will be a birthing of a new time where people of all nations come to sit around the same altars to sing and pray together. And that is basically what happens in the ayahuasca ceremonies, peyote ceremonies, the Wachuma, the San Pedro ceremonies, and even in the Iboga ceremonies. So
people from all walks of life, all belief systems are coming together
to pray, and then recognizing, we're one human family. And then getting to the point where they realize they want the best for everybody in that circle that they'd never met before. So coming back to, just to give you an essence of the magnificence and the angelic presence, just in one type of plant, that if you think of ayahuasca, I always say this, think that the Amazon basin is spread over Brazil, Peru, Chile, Ecuador, Colombia, Bolivia. Okay, just imagine that's just some of the countries there. And for over 5,000 years that can be recorded, somehow this presence, which Don Jose Campos wrote in his Ayahuasca manifesto, that they believed to be beyond this planet in the way that the birthing of the Ganges was from, I think it's from Saraswati coming and just bringing a force coming from another planet, that the ayahuasca, she telepathically influenced the Earth Keeper forest people and said, look, if you want to help heal your tribe, extract the plant, extract the nutrients, the alkaloids from the carpi vine, which would take about 5 days of cooking and bashing and extracting and soaking and heating, and then mix it with these leaves here, let's say the chacruna or the chaliponga or whatever, and then you have to pray over it. So they're spending minimum 5 days praying over this. And then years ago, the shaman would have been the one that was clear enough to drink the medicine and then give healings. And then as things got denser and more difficult, then they started to give this to the people and so that they could be induced with visions and have these experiences. But the experiences is to experience the Great Mother, her feminine force coming up through the feet, up through the legs, and activating the sleeping serpent lying dormant at the base of the spine to increase the person's vitality and to invoke their conscience to go, do you know what? I've been holding that bitterness, that resentment for so long towards this person or to myself. Like whatever it was, it's a purifying force.
Yeah.
Madre Ayahuasca, she brings the gift to purge that's stagnant and needs eliminating, a bit like the planet Pluto.
Yeah. It's really beautiful because my experience with it as well, when they're singing and drumming and calling to it, I could feel it. I could feel it dancing in my body and as if it was moving and trying to grab whatever wasn't meant to be there and really remove it from my system. And so it really does feel like I don't even want to call it a cleanse, but a purification of some kind. It really does feel
so many layers of it on a psychic level, physical level, emotional level. I mean, I've had times where you just feel the medicine in your jaw just recalibrating. Most people talk about it as recalibrating them into the alignment because we are born as humans designed to be in alignment with the central spiritual sun and to be like an acupuncture point on this earth of clear light to become a sanctuary for the presence of the one to come through. So she's really helping to hollow us like a flute. That's how I see her working.
Do you remember what with your first Aya experience, do you remember what the key lesson you walked away with was?
Thank you for asking me that. Well, it was so multidimensional. I was in shock because actually I was arrogant. I thought I've had this massive Kundalini awakening and having all these bliss states, visions happening naturally. What more could I want to experience? I really had that. And then this was now the new level of experiencing. I saw my partner who had just died. I think the key experience for me was the telepathy of the community. I felt a harmonic open where we were in a telepathic field together that never goes. It opened me to the heart of timelessness. So even if I see some of those people from that very first ceremony 22 years ago, I still feel the same level of love. It's like the ability to travel through each other and feel each other. And it felt like this ancient future where we were in a teepee around a fire, actually, in this particular one. And just the deepest level of humbling, just humility. And I started, and this developed over the years, to feel the one thing that I didn't experience in a Kundalini wake up and all the bliss states was what this medicine was giving me, was a definite cleansing of 7 generations back to open the path for 7 generations forward. And that, you know, people talk about ayahuasca like this. They say, you know, in, let's say, a Hindu or a yogic tradition or a Tibetan Buddhist tradition, you may do a sadhana, like a retreat, a 3-year retreat in a cave where people kindly bring food to you. And your lama, your Tibetan lama, or your teacher has given you certain mantras to practice so that you can build your winds and your channels and open the pathways and have your brow center open and receive visions and have a very direct connection to the creator. And so some are 3 years, some are 3 months, some are like a 3 weeks in the dark, let's say. But that's going to naturally produce an enormous level of DMT. And I really take that part seriously, because in the past, people would have done a lot of practice to go into that level of opening. And now, for instance, let's say the Shipibo, the Noya Rao tradition, a lot of the traditions, it's their songs and their prayers that are like a technology of protection around a person when they're journeying. And yet, these days, Erica, there's loads of people just opening up, doing ceremonies here, there, and everywhere in their flat, in their home, with no experience, or they've been to 2 ceremonies and they have not got the purity or the understanding or the holding or even the consciousness to understand what a soul is or the spirit and how to really help guide a person so that they're not going straight out their solar plex into the astral plane and opening to more duality and more battles on the inner planes. You know, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, let's be clear here for those that you know are curious and want to explore taking plant medicines. There's a way for them to prepare themselves and their body, and there needs to be a preparedness to really meet this sacred plant. And there is this other element, which is that you have to select a space holder and a facilitator that also holds the wisdom of the plant sacred in order for this to really be held all together in integrity.
I agree. I do agree. And what I've watched in this last 21 years with respect is like the same way that you saw with all the yoga gurus and Kundalini yoga and
these
Bikram
cults
yoga
that came
and
out.
the Osho thing.
Yes.
I have seen so much falling in plant medicine world as well, where a lot of our brothers that I love misuse their sexual energy in ceremony, are lying to their wives, sleeping with participants. And I've even watched, you know, with some of the tribes where somehow that interface with the West that led them into like
Sort of
the whole thing with money that becomes out of integrity at times and not really interviewing. So I'm so happy that you said that with the Honey Queen. I just know, there's a worldwide organization actually that is called ICEERS that I so deeply respect because they are lawyers and psychologists.
ICEERS.
ICEERS, ICEERS, that have really attempted to put not just an umbrella, but a template that they feel all facilitators, whether they are from the forest or not, should do at the very least.
Certain
for
level
facilitators, yes, so
of
that
regulation,
which is to ensure that people are not on medication like SSRIs, for instance, because that would be dangerous to drink ayahuasca being on that they've not had psychotic episodes in the past, or they've not been on medications, or perhaps even bipolar. Some people have been healed from bipolar with ayahuasca, but it has to be understood by the facilitator and care taken. But there's a massive responsibility ultimately.
And for those that are really feeling called to take whatever medicine, what are some of the things they can do to double check and ensure that the shaman or the group that they've been approached by is, kosher?
I would say the first thing is that the person who's serving the medicine, that they want to understand that person, that they're asking the right questions, that they want to have, time before they just pass them a cup of medicine. And that there's integration woven into after that they've drunk, because this is one of the biggest things is people being blasted open and haven't got a clue what's happened, and now how to integrate that back into their world. Yeah. That is a very important point. And that's becoming a bigger and bigger topic now.
Yeah. And that's really critical, because I know even when I was living in San Francisco, there would be these evening ayahuasca ceremonies and people would just go home. And you'd think, gosh, no, obviously there's still food, downloads happening. Yeah, absolutely.
All of it. That's just,
And the most sort of held ceremonies I've been to, they've been long, 7 days, where there's a plant ceremony, there's a full day of integration.
Beautiful.
There's another plant ceremony, full day of integration, but it's not stacked.
It's not, exactly. So that's beautiful. And sometimes on these, there'll be a different plant, like 2 days of ayahuasca and a San Pedro.
Exactly.
Or a peyote. Yeah. So each plant has its own purpose.
Perfect.
I felt you just thinking that.
Yeah.
So with ayahuasca, she is a mother plant and she is nurturing and caring, but she'll also help you to see your shadow.
She's got a bit of Kali energy, doesn't she?
Has.
She's I call her the OG, like the original grandmother, like original gangster grandmother, where she just really lets you see the truth, but from a place of deep love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She, only recently I've begun to think of her as a mirror and an amplifier. Because I have wondered, a lot of friends of mine, we've wondered, how is it that they're somebody who's been serving ayahuasca for so long could still be so out of integrity in their own personal life? So we kind of had our bubbles pierced of realizing that, so she can amplify even a person's ego. She's not a silver bullet. That's one of the things I've understood. She'll show you your homework. But the ego is so clever, especially the spiritual ego, in trying to avoid itself. So, but her work is to help people meet the soul and the spirit and heal the ego part. So it's a very tricky road when somebody becomes, the shaman or the facilitator, and then now they're put up on the pedestal. And then that's a responsibility also for the participant to say, for instance, to understand that the person serving the medicine isn't the medicine. Everybody needs to have a very good relationship with the medicine. I once went to an Iboga ceremony where it was I think it was my second Iboga retreat. And I realized, I've got myself into quite a sticky situation here because the person didn't feel clear.
And particularly Iboga is quite...
It's a very strong medicine.
Very strong, isn't it?
So quickly give a little download.
Please.
So ayahuasca comes from the Amazon and is a feminine spirit. Iboga comes from a tree, from the Gabon, and also in the Cameroon, for instance. It probably comes from other places too.
Western Africa.
Yes, and is, it's a tradition of use that is very woven into the whole fabric of the Gabon. It's quite extraordinary and amazing. There are two lineages, which I understand. One is called the Feng tradition, the other Bwiti. And I went to work with some people from the Feng tradition, where what they're very clever at is looking at a person's ego before they even come, and then making a little plan to bust their ego.
Yeah, because Iboga is known as the drug where you do have an ego death, is it not?
Yeah, I would never call it a drug, but yeah, it's. Look, let's put it like this. For years, I was really scared to take it because I thought if anything's stronger than ayahuasca, I don't think I could handle it. Mm-hmm. Okay, but it's not stronger in the intensity the way ayahuasca is intense. It's actually stronger in its direct ability to crack the ego. It's actually very, for me, I found it very benevolent and easy to ingest and...
Soft even?
I would say, well, what was so nice for me was to be able to just lie down and just look at the screen of my mind and the visions coming past. It was easy in that kind of way. But it wasn't too overly intense at any point. I never felt frightened of the plant medicine of Iboga, whereas I have been frightened of ayahuasca. I feel like, oh my God, where's she taking me now? It's like,
Interesting.
But these people, they planted really tough seeds that were, I'm not going to go into them, but they were quite awful. And psychologically of what they said about me and to me, to the point that I was like, oh my God, what shall I do? And then I thought about it and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to go through this because if I walk away, I'll always be wondering if they were right. So I did this journey, but it was actually the biggest gift. It was like the whole thing became this initiation to face my fear, to face the dark, to face every one of my insecurities, and to deepen my alignment with Creator more than ever before. I mean, it took me to the deepest prayer. And when I went through all of that, I then experienced this like mandala of diamonds anointing me. It was so profound. And just recently I saw that somebody's giving a like a whole retreat on the diamond mandala. I'd never even heard of this, but I experienced it.
Interesting.
In my being. I felt like new gateways opened inside me, whereas usually I would experience vertical bliss. I started to experience bliss states in all 8 directions. In fact, it was like 10 directions. It was mind-blowing. But it's not like an induced bliss by the medicine.
Yeah.
I really want to make that clear. It was like gates opening inside myself because in my fear of the dark brought me to my knees in front of the Creator to really ask for sanctuary and at-one-ment.
Thank you for that clarification. I've never done it myself, Iboga.
Beautiful medicine.
It has scared me. I'm curious, like ayahuasca is done at night and it lasts, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours.
Generally, yeah, not so much 4. Most people would give a ceremony around 6 to 12. I mean, the average being 8.
Yeah.
But like you say, the bigger the group, I've done ceremonies in Brazil where there's 100 of us.
Wow.
Or maybe more. And then the ceremony goes on until the day because there's a lot to kind of move through and integrate with that amount of people. But they're beautiful ceremonies.
And how is it? It sounds like it. And how is it for Iboga? Is it similar or is it shorter?
Iboga, no. Iboga is a medicine where it's once you're activated, it works on a kind of polyrhythmic, different frequency, like taking you into like almost like REM brainwaves. So it's like you're in a dream, but awake, and then you can't sleep. And you feel the medicine for days after as well.
Wow.
And the visions are completely different to ayahuasca visions. So it's a very... how many hours? Well, on the first night, they usually call it the death ceremony, like going in to see you. But let me say this, it's like humor. There's humor. This medicine has humor. For me, when I saw all my fears, like fear of poo realms, I was taken into a poo realm. Like,
What's a poo realm?
Poo realm. Let me say this, like, if you've ever been to a massive festival and you go past the toilets and they stink.
Yeah.
I would gag normally.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And whereas now it scanned me and said, oh, so she's got a fear around poo, and then takes me to go and be in a whole realm of poo.
Oh my gosh.
But then once I saw what it was doing, I could laugh.
That's funny.
And then I could see, oh, Rita, you think you don't have an ego? And then it would just show me how my mind is constantly the narrator and just a total ego. So I could never pretend to myself I didn't have an ego again.
See, it's funny you say that Iboga has humor, because I actually think they all do.
Yeah, they all do.
Because my first experience with Aya, I was very serious, and I went thinking it was going to be, an induced dark night of the soul, and I was going to come out completely purified the other side.
I like that.
And of course, the first night, there wasn't a whole lot happening. It was so gentle. Oh. And all of a sudden, I could just feel these tears streaming down the side of my face. And I remembered that one of the advice was if you're kind of lost, you can sort of speak to Aya. And so I just said, I don't get it. What is it? What is this? And then all I heard was, joy, bitch. And I was like, what? Joy, bitch. and then I could only laugh that it literally was trying to show me what joy was. And me being so serious, I had lost my capacity to feel the joy in simply being. And funny enough, that morning when that ceremony ended, I was a bit upset. I remember thinking, oh, it's got to be something more than that. Like, is that it? Because it really was that gentle. It was just, I allowed myself into it for a moment, but I was sort of searching for something more, I think.
But do you think you pushed it away? Because that's what I've witnessed so many people do, and I've done it myself, is, the first time for me was extremely strong, probably the first few times. In fact, certainly the first 10 times. Then once my ego figured out how to switch it off from the intensity, then I was caught in the middle where I'm like, oh, I'm really scared to go in again. And then going, well, I'm just sitting here not doing anything now. It's like there's this middle way. I've seen so many people. Yeah.
Since then, I have no real fear of Aya, and so if it sends me into bliss states.
Great.
But and particularly the last time about a year ago. But this first time, what was interesting to me was afterwards, I almost didn't believe it. I thought, well, I must have missed the memo. I must have missed something. And I reached into my bag of runes and I asked, universe, please help me decipher what just happened last night. And wouldn't you know it, I pulled out the rune for joy.
Oh, I love that.
And I had to laugh in that moment. And I have moments like that quite regularly where I feel like whatever the energies of the universe or the plant medicine, all interlinked, is mocking me in the most humorous way.
I think life is like that as well.
Yeah.
Life is like that when we open. So I've noticed that when people are drinking ayahuasca, those days afterwards, because they've opened to meet themselves, they're so much deeper in synchronicity with everything. And, you know, I always say it like this, the more you meet the Great Spirit inside you, the more you see it in the way that the pansy flowers are saying hello and the leaves are moving, bending down, and that the clouds are making love to the earth. You know, like everything is in this symbiotic harmonic of like epic divinity that when we're looking through these two eyes and stuck in our emotional body, we miss it every day. And then once you've come back to yourself, everything seems so more vividly in harmony.
And when you speak like that, so poetically, Rita, I have to ask you, why do you think people should dance with the plant medicines? And when should they not?
Okay, well, I don't think that they should. I think the better question would be, why are they more attracted to this? And is it safe? Are the plant medicines really helpful? And I think before I even answer that, is that have I got time to talk about the grandfather medicines?
Yes, please. San Pedro
and Peyote, because I feel like it's important to just give everybody an understanding of the different ones and how they work. So if we think about like the burning, like a fire that's blazing, but it's, you know, a fire that people are praying around and that you're having a chance to really look at the flame of the fire, a bit like this, really. It's, you know, I love that. I love fire presence. And that's almost like the energy of Shiva, just being at one with spirit, the blazing clear light, that white light coming from the sun energy. So the grandfather medicines are kind of like that. They're about not closing your eyes and going off somewhere in a trance in the dark. You mentioned ayahuasca being drunk in the dark. Some people do ayahuasca ceremonies in the day that are mind-blowing, but she is more often drunk in the dark so that people go into the trance, that they go into a slightly soporific state to be between the worlds so that they can let go of left brain mind. Whereas the grandfather ceremonies, it's, even though some of them start in the evening and go till the dawn and then carry on till midday, and then there's also San Pedro ceremonies that start in the morning and then go on till the night. So you pray with the fire at the night. What they do is help you to deepen presence with your eyes open, to see the magic and the beauty of what is. And I think of peyote like the warmth of a beautiful male's hug, opening your heart. And often if you go into a peyote ceremony, you might go with all these problems that you think you've got. And by the end of the ceremony, you're just like, I don't have any problems, because your heart's opened into absolute joy. And there's many different traditions in the ways of drinking ayahuasca. There's many different traditions in eating peyote. So the Native American church way is very different to working with the Wirarika people for the Maricames from Mexico, and how some of them will just make you make an altar with your candle that represents your life, and you'll sit there praying for your life and the life of your children all night. So that is very, very special. Or the Native American First Nation people, when they pray, they often will want you to be sitting up on your knees most of the night. You definitely can't lie down. And then the ceremony closes with bringing in the women, bringing in the corn, the meat and the fruits and the water, and then everything being blessed by the fire and the cedar, and praying with the sacred tobacco. And that ceremony, that part of the ceremony might take an hour and a half, just praying over the food. Everybody's tired. They've been sitting up for 12 hours. They really want to eat that meat and the corn and the food, and they can't until the women finish praying for everything that's in their hearts. You know, so it really helps you to cultivate patience and the power of prayer and listening to each other and having reverence for simplicity, to actually really thank the water for our life, for the tears, for the waters that hold the women, the children in the belly, in the womb. It really takes you so deep into the earth to appreciate absolutely everything, these grandfather medicines. I really love them for that reason, just to open us to appreciate everything. So when I've done these type of medicine ceremonies, it's brought me to a place where I'm like integrating my Buddhist lineage and my Hindu lineages and my mother being Catholic. Like, I get to see how everything isn't separate at all. So much so, by the way, that I've come to this place where I feel, because there's a trend around plant medicines and people, mainstream people now, the people who've got no spiritual practice, who haven't even thought about God, but might be wanting to come in because their friend did it and they've seen a change, or that they've got a ketamine addiction, or because they're just so wealthy and it's trendy. And they're coming for the experience rather than because they really want to be with God. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a very different holding if people don't know what they're getting into.
So let's talk about that, about being a responsible partaker with these plant medicines. What is it that someone should do to prepare themselves to feel that if they're feeling this call, there's this curiosity, there's this pull, what is it that they should take on for themselves to prepare themselves to really meet the wisdom?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what type of medicine, where they're doing it. I mean, you know, just going to touch upon 5-MeO bufo, the toad medicine. There's a big trend around that. You know, it's the closest to smoking on a crack pipe. And a lot of people that serve it have been crack addicts.
Oh,
that
gosh.
Really scares me.
That
really scares me.
Very scary.
And somehow people are getting it easily. It's easy to walk across borders with it. I've watched people give it with absolute not integrity at all. And people having no idea what they're going into, and then feeling that they're having a breakdown and taking a while to come back, or now deciding that they're going to go and do antidepressants. Really makes me sad. So what is it? First, research what you're going to take. And secondly, I feel it's really important to find out from other people, has that person got the capacity to hold you? Look around, you know. One of the things that I've realized last year, or a couple of years ago, it began actually in 2021, where I realized I'm going to do an ageless wisdom shamanic training, which incorporates understanding plant medicines, but more to the point, how to consciously connect to the source of all creation and to tantrically use your body as the vessel to journey through internally, to explore all your own gateways within. So that when you do go to a ceremony, you can journey safely. And then that now has progressed to doing, because over 300 people have done that and loved it. And so I just do, like, for instance, we have a cohort of people doing this now. It's very, very deep and comprehensive. It includes training in dying consciously and how to hold space for people around you that are passing away and dying. to really honor them and to be present for them. And it's about embodied presence. And then now I'm also taking it into doing an in-person 7-night advanced space holders training in Spain, which our next one will be, I think it's in June or July. Maybe it's the end of May to June, something like that.
2026.
Yeah. But that is, really good for anybody that's been already holding space with medicines. Like there's so many people holding space with mushrooms. But, I heard of 2 people the other day being given 8 grams. Everybody was given 8 grams in a ceremony. That is really intense. People take months to come back from that. Not everybody has got the same sensitivity and the same capacity. Somebody serving you medicine should not be just giving a blanket cup of medicine for everybody. It really needs to actually be, to me, I think that people should be asked, how would you like to go? Do you want to start gently? Would you like a medium? Would you like to go deep?
I've also sat in ceremony where we really respected the mushroom and we held it and allowed our body to tell us if it was too much or too little.
Oh, I love that.
And also really powerful ways that you can just really bring the wisdom of your body. Your mind will not know, but your body will know.
But your body will always know. I always say that. It is. Your body's got absolute intelligence. And luckily, on that level, somebody might go for a second cup of ayahuasca and throw it up immediately. I've watched that so many times, like the body is saying, not yet. Do not have this now. Yeah, but I think to learn how to hold space for yourself, to not be frightened to meet because every single plant medicine is taking you to one thing, to prepare yourself to be at one with the Creator, which is really what your spirit is doing. But then you have to open to, the ego part of us has to open to feel our spirit and humble ourselves before our maker and say, hey, it's your daughter here. I'm sorry that it's taken me so long to really come and talk to you. Please, could you help me to forgive myself for my unconsciousness and my arrogance and all the places where I just have been avoiding you. Because actually, if you think about scrolling and the busy, crazy worlds that we're in and all the different, everything to distract from the stillness. And, I always say this, that what the plant medicines, all of them do, is help us to become aware of the inner silence that's connected to the omnipresence, that is talking to us through silence. God talks to us through silence.
Yes.
And we have to be silent to understand it, because it's not through left brain, it's not through words, it's through silence. And that's when we get moved into the right activity within the divine plan and unfurl and unfold our purpose. And ultimately, everybody is really wanting to come home to that. Rather than the construct of, I think I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do this. It's like to come back to the simplicity, to be shown what to do.
And ultimately, that is the preparation, right, for the medicine as well, is to stop scrolling, spend more time meditating.
Yes, beautiful.
Being on a dieta where you're not consuming heavy things that can slow your digestion, but actually bring you lighter.
Yes.
And so there's this, the preparation for the 30 days before Aya or many of these other
it depends.
medicines.
So just so you know, because I've worked with like Brazilians and Bolivians and everything. So in the jungle way of Peru, it's if you're going to do a dieta, yes, you do need to do a 30-day, not using heavy perfumes, everything. So you really can have the sensitivity of all the different plants you're working with. Whereas if you're just going to, let's say, a 2-night ayahuasca in Amsterdam, doing a 3 or 4 day diet is sufficient, because it's a very different amount of medicine. But generally, it's abstaining from sexual intercourse for 3 days with any of the plants, unless you're in a really committed, loving relationship. It's not wrong, but it's about the wasting of the seed or bringing your energy down because you're attempting to bring your energy up. So that's why they would do that.
Explanation.
Yeah.
Finally, Rita, I want to ask you about the role intention plays in shaping plant medicine journeys. And how can we differentiate between a pure intention from an ego-driven one?
Well, I feel even ego-driven ones for people are innocent. Everybody who comes to sit with plant medicines has a level of innocence. And intention, mostly the plant medicines will give you what you need rather than what you want. And I think a lot of people go in with big, high expectations for things that they want to heal. But then as the ceremony comes up and the medicine's getting stronger, they start to go feeling this guilt or this shame or this place that they've avoided themselves. So what they had as the intention goes out the window, but it still brings it full circle.
Right.
Because I always say to people, my advice to a person would be deepen your relationship with the Creator. Make yourself a sanctuary that God can dwell within you.
And I also always say it never takes you where you can't handle. It's meant to be.
Yes, I do agree with that for the most part. I really do.
Rita, gosh, we should have another session to talk about this as well, because there's a couple other things we didn't get a chance to talk to, such as integration being so important in this as well. But if you were to just say a few words on why it's so important to focus on integration and how long that can last, can you say a few words on that?
Well, it is my prayer that ayahuasca facilitators and mushroom facilitators, not so much Peyote and Washuma, because I don't think they need integration in the same way. But and Iboga, they always do this. But it's to give people the opportunity to share together. And the reason for that is when people share together, they're entering a vast mystery school of great wisdom to see that everybody gets to experience the intelligence of Madre Ayahuasca in this case, and how she helped every single person in different ways. And then you get to journey through because she really increases our telepathic skills.
I really love that as well, because energetically you are all journeying together, even though you're on your solo journey. And then speaking into it the next day, I think is so, so powerful.
It's so powerful. Yeah. If anybody wants to deeply understand this more, I really love to share more about this. I know that I haven't had an opportunity here, but I think it is, in the past I'd be shy to say something about my ageless wisdom shamanic journey, but now I've realized, look, I may not be on this planet for long. I've had breast cancer. This is one of the jewels of this life's work, is to actually lay down such a vast study. It's a vast study, and it can really help when working with the plant medicines.
Beautiful. Rita, thank you so much for coming in again and seeing us. We can't wait to have you back in Dubai sometime soon.
Much. Thank you. Ahomatakuyasin. That means for all our relations.
And Yatakalafia in Arabic means bless you, bless your hands.
Love that. Thank you, Erica.
Thanks very much. See you again soon.
Hey there. If you like this episode and you're getting some beautiful transmissions or are feeling inspired to support this podcast in any way, the best way to do that is to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on YouTube, or wherever it is that you're plugging into the Enlightened DXB podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at EnlightenedDXB. If you want to reach out to any of the guests we have on the show, you can check out their profiles and their work at www.enlightendxb.com. And for those of you in Dubai looking for community, retreats, or additional resources, you can also sign up to our emailing list there. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Until then, I wish you more joy, more ease, and a little sprinkle of grace.